have are all of, Monica, are all of the nominations for people who want to be reappointed, are those on the agenda for this evening's city council? They are? Okay. The bottom line is we had 5 people whose terms were up for reappointment. Everybody has elected to party again. So what this means is next year, we'll be bringing back the same team. It'll be like the 27 Yankees. 1927, just saying. Okay, all right. Thanks, everybody, and we'll get on to our serious business today. And, yeah.
I'm appointed by the Board of Education, and I haven't gotten an update on that one yet. Do we know when that's coming? Fabulous, thank you.
Oh, okay. I assumed that they sent theirs back to city council to be, Bob, I'm gonna not finish that sentence. Oh, okay. All right. Well, then, yeah, that. Okay. I'm not going to stick my foot in my mouth any further. We're going to talk about our guest this afternoon is we've got several folks here from Charlotte Center City, and we're going to talk about the state of Uptown and all of that good stuff. And I'm going to hand it over to Michael, Marguerite, and Cheryl. And I don't know who's going first, but come on up and give us your spiel.
Okay, thank you. Grateful. So thank you, Mr. Chair, Monica. Good to be with you all today. And we'll run through a bunch of information about your Center City and frame this in a way that hopefully there's lots of questions and we can have a good conversation about it.
I love Zoom.
Me too. It's fantastic.
Here we go. I had no idea you guys had so much fun, by the way. So you may have to.
This is the most fun meeting that happens in this building. I just like to say.
That's a high standard. Well, it's my pleasure to share some information with you today about our Center City and about initiatives that we're working on, things that we're concerned about, things that we're excited about. Joining me is Cheryl Myers, who's our Chief Planning and Development Officer, and Marguerite Ehrenberg, who's our Director of Planning and Development, and you'll be hearing from them shortly. So the purpose of the organization is to envision and implement strategies that ensure that our Center City is welcoming and equitable, economically vibrant, culturally rich, and a beloved place for all. We lead with research and urban planning, economic and community development, marketing, communications, programming, and events. From a recipe standpoint, we begin with the fact that we believe that a great downtown is built on strong leadership, shared vision, and collective action, which I think reflects a lot of what you guys do and why you serve this community on the Planning Commission. I should have started with that. Thank you. There's a lot that you guys could all do with your time, and this is just great governance. And having been in this role now for 2 decades, I've seen the impact that our Planning Commission has, and thank you. It makes such a difference. As an organization, we believe in your work. In fact, it's been our tradition since 1960s, every 10 years, to have a new downtown vision plan. And we work very closely with the planning staff and with Mecklenburg County and with residents and businesses and all kinds of government partners to create this blueprint to guide growth, development, and the big moves of our community. And the plan is important. The process is the best part because we get to touch so many of our community members and ask them the question, what is your aspiration for your downtown? And we end up with a process that allows us to course correct. It's a 20-year vision that we renew every 10 years. And this allows us to act in a more coordinated way. These are our 4 service districts. It's MSDs 1, 2, 3, and 4. So as you can tell, it's Uptown, it's Midtown, it's South End. It includes all the way to CPCC. Cheryl and Marguerite, do you want to review now some of these initiatives? You want me to do this? Okay. So we're focused right now on economic performance in general across our center city. A new initiative called the Uptown Vibrancy Collaborative that I'll share more on. We're very excited about an initiative called the North Tryon Tech Hub, and there's some special projects. So starting first with economic performance. So all of you now should have a copy of our State of the Center City report. We publish this once a year, but we're constantly renewing it on our website with fresh data. But this gives us a ceremonial time every January to go to press. And this is research, but it's research with a purpose. We're trying to help our partners to quickly underwrite whether or not they want to be a part of this place. So everything from growth to opportunity to looking back to looking forward, trying to identify themes. And our audience is the general public, but we're trying to create a tool that helps the market makers, the brokers, the developers, the investors, the major employers to be able to be inspired to come and join what we're seeking to do together. So currently there's approximately 81% return to office in Uptown and South End. We're very pleased with that. If you do the math, basically means we lost Friday. Friday's not coming back very soon. But if we can have 4 solid days of basically workforce back, that does a lot for our workforce. You'll hear a little bit more about this later, but one of our aspirations longer term has been that our center city become more balanced, moving from a central business district to a central activity district. And there's a lot of things that are contributing to us moving in that direction. Hospitality is way beyond baseline in 2019, where the business side of it is back to 81%. Dig in a little bit further into that. So I love this slide. What it shares for you, and I'll give it to you graphically, what is in blue are projects that have been completed since 2010. So kind of the last 2 cycles. Those that are in purple are forecasted to ground break before 26. Those in green are under construction, and those that are orange are announced or planned. So in 2.5 decades, we've built an incredible piece of infrastructure. And I describe it as infrastructure because if you really think about the built environment, it is the way all of us as residents and guests interact with this place. And it's what makes it powerful. It allows us to continue to grow jobs, to continue to attract talent to our community. We have 3.7 billion of new development that's in the pipeline. So if we dig a little bit deeper, specifically into Uptown and South End, Uptown is home to 27 million square feet of office. It is truly our CBD, but that CBD is stretching. I mean, you could, without hesitation, say it now begins at West Boulevard, which is a big change in a short period of time. We've got great urban neighborhoods throughout Uptown. One of the uniquenesses of our community is the tight collection of our cultural institutions, our sports institutions, government, our convention center. It allows us to do some incredible things around mobility because it's so many layers in one place. So therefore, why not also co-locate the hub of our mass transit system and the hub of our bike system and our road network? The South End office inventory has more than doubled since 2018. There's 3,500 apartments units under construction right now. I was down at the Brook Hill groundbreaking for the Harvest Center this morning, and I just hadn't stood in that spot, maybe ever. And you look around at all of the investment, all of the housing that is going in there. It's amazing for our community. With the number of people that are moving here, we've got to keep up with the housing. That's what allows us to keep up with affordability. So looking forward and the positioning of our center city and our community for continued economic success, we've got to build on our strengths. This is where that idea of we've got a great central business district that needs to mature as a central activity district. Transforming and blending the uses from office-centric to more and more intense mixed use. This is achieved by this intermittent, I love what's in our North Tryon Vision Plan. It really calls for a different kind of approach to urban development. And that will be one of the forefronts. I think there's going to be some exciting things going on in those 30 blocks, and also what will be occurring in the Iron District in these next couple cycles. There's a lot more retail spaces than we've ever enjoyed before. What we hear from the retail community is that what has held Uptown back is the lack of space. So now I'm ready to challenge them that we've got more space. Let's see that come together. We're very hopeful for Asana's new development at, they call it Brooklyn and Church. And they've got 60,000 square feet of retail that they're planning on putting there. It's close enough to what they've done at the Ally Center. They think they're going to be able to create some real gravity that should help with some of the vacancy that we have there in the southern part of Uptown. And there it is. 800,000 square feet of vintage office that's being converted into 460 units of housing. And again, almost 60,000 square feet of retail. And that is under construction now. So every downtown has had incredible headwinds since the stay-at-home order. And Charlotte was not relieved of that burden. And so we've been working with our partners across the last 5 years to how are we going to address this. And our model is always one shared vision and then collective action. And we've not been able to get to that until now. And we're excited about what the components of that are. And let me share a little bit. So the Charlotte Executive Leadership Council came to Center City Partners and said, we're concerned about Uptown in a number of ways. Public safety, perception, inactivity, vintage office that's getting stuck with the lenders and maybe even get flushed from the lenders eventually. And also Tryon Street and the infrastructure that we have and how can we address that collectively. So we're excited to share that this group of investors came together and we raised a couple $2 million privately to launch an initiative that's an $8 or $9 million effort. The areas of focus are safety for all, improving the perception, increasing economic vibrancy, creating extraordinary experiences very intentionally, and then investing in public infrastructure. So the initiatives that we're launching, first, events and programming. With the money that we've raised, and we're seeking to raise the municipal service district rate in MSDs 2 and 3, which is our primary business district and our secondary business district. And that will be a co-investment to this private money. And some part of that strategy is to make sure that we've got weekly programming. And actually more than that, because we're going to do more, we're going to produce weekly, but we're asking our partners to also produce weekly so that you have this changed experience in the daytime and in the evenings when you're here. The second step is around perception. And we pulled together a really talented working group of our chief marketing officers at our major employers. And we hired Ray Ward. Ray Ward actually did it pro bono. They donated a lot of their services to create a campaign that we've now launched. And hopefully you're excited about seeing it and not tired of it yet on social media and in the streets and outdoor media. But here's just a little taste of this Uptown campaign that we've launched. It's a 2-year campaign that was kicked off in March at our Vision Awards. And then thirdly is a concept called Own Your Block. And it's really as simple as it sounds. The idea is incrementalism. There are only 11 blocks from north to south in Uptown. And then east to west, it's probably 1.5 miles. But if we can block by block begin to have property owners and major employers each commit to 3 things: that they will take private security curb to curb as a complement to CMPD. Number 1, that they will each commit to cleanliness and beautification. And then number 3, programming. And we've had an incredible response. We had about 45 different owners and major employers join us for a kickoff. And across these 2 months, we're now going out doing audits of these locations and trying to bring our expertise on private safety and programming and beauty to each of these blocks and having conversations specifically about each. So we're excited about having these launched the way they are. We're going to be expanding on the safety side. We're going to be expanding our public safety, our safety ambassador program. We will be growing that by 65%. We're excited to have that launching. And we're right now negotiating with our third party block by block that provides that service for us. I'll now hand it over to Cheryl to share a little bit about the North Tryon Tech Hub. It's down there.
Okay. Thank you, Michael, and good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you. Our work on the North Tryon Tech Hub is not starting from zero because we're building on excellent planning and adopted policy. The Center City 2020 Vision Plan recommended conducting a more detailed study of North Tryon to maximize the area's potential to contribute to the vibrancy of Uptown and the city's tax revenue. To implement this recommendation, a steering committee of leaders from the city, the county, arts and cultural institutions, nonprofit organizations, and businesses work together to create the North Tryon Vision Plan for the 50-block area located north of 5th Street between Caldwell and Church. The plan's vision is to, in 20 years, create a place where curiosity begins, knowledge is advanced, and innovation lives. A primary recommendation is to establish an economic development underpinning to support the redevelopment of this part of Uptown into a complete, vibrant place. We believe that supporting new technology industries and entrepreneurs can address this. Anchored by UNC Charlotte's Dubois Center at its heart, the proposed North Tryon Tech Hub is comprised of 13 blocks within the larger North Tryon Vision Plan study area, bound loosely by 7th, College, Tryon, 11th, and Caldwell Streets. In addition to the university, the area includes or is immediately adjacent to some of Charlotte's most cherished arts, entertainment, and cultural institutions you see listed here. So our purpose, by leveraging the power of UNC Charlotte existing neighborhood assets, a strong corporate community, a supportive local government, and existing and potential talent, we can cultivate a globally recognized mixed-use innovation district at the nexus of academics, entrepreneurship, and corporate innovation to create a flywheel that will advance economic opportunity and position Charlotte as a launch pad for tomorrow's jobs, industries, and solutions. We began this effort by forming an advisory committee with representatives from UNC Charlotte, the city, the county, major employers, and property owners. This committee champions, creates, and acts on project strategies. To advance our goals and objectives, we established key pillars and working groups related to academics, entrepreneurship, and corporate innovation. On the academic front, we're thrilled with how our partners at UNC Charlotte have really leaned into this effort. During the past year, an additional 1,600 students per week, primarily from the colleges of business, computing and informatics, and engineering, are now taking classes at the Dubois Center. These students are bringing new energy to the building and the area, and especially during the day. They're riding the Blue Line to and from main campus and supporting neighborhood businesses like the 7th Street Market vendors. So for the entrepreneurship pillar, the Tech Hub effort received a tremendous boost in March with the grand opening of CoLab, a new co-working and innovation cornerstone that houses a variety of programs and services designed to support Charlotte's entrepreneurial ecosystem. CoLab serves as a university's front door in the Tech Hub. It's located in the former Charlotte Lab School building, directly across 9th Street from the Dubois Center. There's been an incredible initial reception by entrepreneurs, with all the private offices there are leased, more than 70 events already booked through year end, and many of the 140 hot desks already spoken for. CoLab is clearly filling a need and allows for the necessary creative collisions to occur between students and researchers, small business owners, and corporate partners, which are key for innovation to thrive. We also cannot wait for the Do Greater Charlotte program to open its new creative lab, which will connect Uptown's economic power with under-resourced communities, creating new pathways for education, entrepreneurship, and upward mobility. And finally, for corporate innovation, a working group comprised of our corporate partners and the university was formed. This group is working to identify potential areas of strategic alignment and to ideate projects or initiatives that will benefit the corporations and the university, as well as the broader Tech Hub initiative. Our next steps involve further defining our strategic direction for the next 2 to 3 years, broadening the tent with others who have expertise related to the 3 pillars, and developing a marketing and communications and engagement strategy. So now I'd like to ask Marguerite to tell you about a few of our special projects and placemaking.
All right, thanks, Cheryl. So I'll highlight a few of our exciting projects that we're working on that we're currently working on that we've recently completed as well. So starting off, over the past year, Victoria Yards has been transformed into a new vibrant gathering space. So Victoria Yards is the former parking lot turned flexible event space right on 7th Street, right across from the 7th Street Market. So thanks to support from the Knight Foundation and Levine Properties, we partnered with internationally acclaimed artist Morag Myerscough, and you can see her right at the bottom there above the word becoming, and Charlotte's own poet laureate Jay Ward. So the installation is titled A Place of Becoming and plays with bold color and language from local poets that explore themes of both belonging and identity. So painted panels wrap all of the shipping containers that sort of form the barrier and the outline of Victoria Yards with graphic cutouts lining the top. The ground is painted as well, and we have a few small decorated huts in there as well. So on the left here is Morag Myerscough and her dog Elvis that she loves very much and talks very often about. So Morag was the designer and lead artist behind A Place of Becoming. She's based in London and works with communities all around the world to turn everyday urban spaces into places filled with joy and her mantra, a sense of belonging. To help her bring this vision to life, we also partnered with a group of CMS students. You can see them on the left there painting, and a team of local artists to kind of put boots on the ground and bring the vision to life. The team also worked with Charlotte's Poet Laureate, Jay Ward, pictured here right next to Morag. And so he helped develop the visual and the written language of the artwork. Much of the text in the artwork came from a poetry shop that we had at VAPRA. So Jay organized and led this workshop, which brought together more than 15 local poets. The group explored the theme of belonging specifically as it relates to life in Charlotte through a creative series of exercises. And by the end of the session, each participant had created their own original poem related to belonging in Charlotte. Then Morag collaborated with Jay to sort of weave this language into the to the final design. So now Victoria Yards is in high demand and has become even more a dynamic space and filled with regular programming. We've held over 50 events in there, from free pickup soccer games to pop-up markets to fitness classes, festivals, and many other community events. All right, on a smaller scale, but just as meaningful, we're working on another placemaking project to install decorative vinyl wraps on utility cabinets along the rail trail in South End. And so you can see some of the locations here on this slide. We're partnering with CATS on this, and the goal is to transform overlooked infrastructure. You can see the cabinets lining there on the left and the right to something more beautiful. So by featuring work from local artists, we hope to not only beautify the space, but also help deter graffiti and vandalism that keeps occurring on these cabinets. And in turn, creating a cleaner and more welcoming environment for pedestrians along the rail trail. So we have 4 local artists that have designed 2 vinyl wraps each, which are actually being installed right now today. Here's just a sneak peek of what those look like. The top left is by Emily Nunez. Top right is by Franklin Kearns. Bottom left, Josh Henderson. And then the bottom right is by Scott Partridge. Last, but certainly not least, is McCall Park. So back in 2020, the Center City Vision Plan called for the renovation of the park. It was originally designed in 1991 and has become extremely difficult for the city to maintain, had limited space for gathering, and much of the infrastructure had become obsolete. In 2021, a committee of civic and business leaders helped raise funds for the design and construction of the park and to rename it and honor Hugh McCall, former chairman, CEO of Bank of America and Charlotte Trailblazer. So the project officially launched in September 2023 with Charlotte Center City Partners leading the effort, collaborating with the community, the city, and then other key stakeholders. And the project is led by Charlotte native and Oakland-based designer Walter Hood, who serves as the lead artist and visionary for this space. And he's worked with, their team at Hood has worked with Bolton and Mink, local architecture firm, landscape architecture firm, and Rogers to build this space. So the design is centered around the art piece, which is called the Nest. You can see here, the very top and center. This features a series of hexagonal rods held in tension by steel cables. It's inspired by the hornet's nest of rebellion and the idea that nests incorporate different unique elements, all interwoven to create one cohesive system. Underneath the art piece, you can see there's a reflective mirror or a scrim pond that's really only a few inches deep and can be drained for events, and will have program with event or interactive jets on some of the evenings and weekends. We'll also have flexible seating, seasonal landscaping, and then decorative and functional lighting features. So the goal is to have the space well lit. We're so excited to officially open the park next week with a community celebration at noon on Saturday, June 21st. The mayor and Hugh McCall will give opening remarks at 12:15, and then we're going to have live music and entertainment and food and drink. So all are welcome, and we're excited, and we hope to see you there. With that, we're happy to take any questions.
Thank you all very much. Commissioners, do we have, I see a hand. Commissioner Shaw, and then Lansdale, and then.
I just wanted to say thank you for all that y'all are doing, Michael and Cheryl and the rest of your team. I have the good fortune and benefit of sitting on the South End Board Committee and getting to witness and hear about some of this, but have heard some of it for the first time today. So it's really powerful, all of the initiatives that y'all have taken on in a really tough, following a really tough situation. I'm gonna use that from now on, the war on work from home. I think you said, I like that.
Thank you, Aaron.
Commissioner Lansdale.
Kudos to the compliments, since 1990, when I first moved to Charlotte, it's a different place. Uptown is a different place. The changes in mass have been astounding for any city anywhere in the United States, and Center City Partners has been a critical linchpin in that progress and that success. No doubt. We appreciate you for that. Along the way, though, there seems to be a couple of missteps, maybe where we jumped instead of walked. We looked left instead of looking right. Specifically from a transportation lens, we won't talk about kind of the public safety perception and some of the things that you mentioned for Uptown, but we made a mistake in 2007 when we didn't put a pedestrian bridge from the convention center across 277. $7 million it would cost back then. We were promised that bridge for a decade, and I think we're probably 7 years now since we had a real commitment to build that bridge. We see bridges like this in Raleigh, across bigger interstates like I-40 that are just for pedestrians, not for rail and pedestrians. We see examples in Winston-Salem that happen far quicker, far more effective than we see here. No questions yet. Just want to kind of if I may take since I have the mic for this, when we look at our North Quarter, and I'm going to get the name right here. Sorry, the North Tryon Tech Hub. I made a comment that we looked left when we should have looked right. There is a pretty significant eyesore that Planning Commission and zoning has made where developers are falling short. There's a significant parcel of land that has stopped building in a critical area, which we, in my mind, should have been addressed 5 years ago. To have a parking lot built and rods of steel coming up out of the ground with chain link fencing at our most critical entry point into Uptown Charlotte. We'd love to see Center City Partners take a look at that and see what we can do to invest in solutions that help achieve the 3 pillars that we're looking for of safety, perception, and success. I could continue on, but I will say one more note related to transportation. There's a significant piece of this puzzle that's been missing for some time. and the partnerships that you guys do. I mean, I really can't thank you enough. I think Dr. O just stepped out as well, but I think, where are we going to land with the Gateway Station? We saw a little bit of the glimpse of that in the orange and reds and purples for the progress we've made over the past 20 years. But we can't forget that. We can't leave that aside. So those are my three kind of small on a particular parcel, medium, a particular road, and then an incredible transportation hub of our future that will make the decisions that we've made up to this point small. Because when we start having a 2-seat ride to Washington, DC, or to Atlanta, from Center City, Charlotte, where are we going to be? What are we going to be doing? How is Charlotte going to look forward? So I want to thank the chair and everybody on the dais for this chance to kind of wax philosophically with you, but also kind of recognize that we've got some potholes to fill before we kind of start looking at the stars again.
Mr. Chair, would you like any response to that?
My only comment is that potholes, if they're on a state road, must be filled within 2 days. Other potholes, I don't know about. I will then throw that back to the folks from Center City. And I pointed them out to you beforehand, so you should have been prepared.
So on those three, what I would share is we agree deeply and passionately in all 3 points you made. I would share that private money has been raised. The city has made a deep commitment to the rail trail pedestrian bridge. I think it's within line of sight. We think this fall we will begin construction, and we cannot wait to heal that disconnect between Uptown and South End. Our rail trail has become just a vital piece of pedestrian, cyclist infrastructure. We've loved the way the developers in the South End have created two-sided architecture to address it like a waterfront. It's been powerful. Regarding the parking deck and the incomplete development, we are working very closely with that developer. I believe that the vision that they have is consistent with our North Tryon vision plan. And we hope that this summer you will see a significant change in that environment. And can't wait to get the CO for that parking deck, because that part of Uptown is dying to have that capacity for another 1,800 car parking deck. But we also understand that, their commitment has to be to rapid in housing, and the additional housing will be great too. And I think their vision at Levine Properties is consistent with that. And with regard to Gateway, our RFP process was a great process and selected a really great development team, and look forward to those next steps. In our 2040 vision plan, Daniel Isofano, we used a firm called MIG, and Daniel is the CEO, and the wisdom that he shared about union stations in downtowns is that he believes that there was a high correlation between great airports and great cities in the last century. He thinks there will be a similar correlation to cities with great union stations and great cities in this century. So hopefully we'll be able to fulfill that vision and that challenge.
Commissioner Wilden?
Hi. So I have 3 questions. I had to text them to my husband so then I could read them out. It's just who I am as a human. So I'm asking in terms of like property tax base taking a hit in the next evaluation. How are y'all working with the General Assembly and the city on code changes to allow residential conversion of underutilized commercial and Class A office space? Because conventional wisdom right now is that with the next reevaluation, it will significantly reduce the tax value. And so how are y'all doing with that?
May I take these one at a time, because That's.
Do your
that's-
thing.
The question you just asked is like PhD dissertation quality.
She comes to meetings with spreadsheets.
I
Yeah.
do.
I
Sorry.
get it. I feel you. So we share the community's deep concern about 2027. And, the challenges that we're having with budgets this year, like particularly the county, is going to present itself in dramatic form at the next reevaluation in 2027. We think the right approach to that is to create a city, an environment through both the regulations that we have, the express services that we offer, and probably some kind of incentive that we think we should be co-developing among the private sector, the city, and the county, so that Charlotte becomes a preferred destination for capital and developers that want to address vintage office. Because this is a natural cycle, but it's dramatic the way it's happening all at once with so many properties. Charlotte has not had this challenge before. We think we've avoided it because so many of our office buildings have been owned by major employers. So they're less concerned with occupancy and, kind of what you would see inside of a REIT or a big institutional investor. But in 2010, so many of our major employers changed the way they approached it and took their office buildings off balance sheet. We got new investors, we got new developers. So then this is the first time we faced this kind of headwind, which many other cities have seen. And we need these properties to trade hands. We need them to be marked to market. We need the discount. It's a killing frost before spring, because then you get new capital to come to town, which serves our community by reinvesting, expanding the tax base, and creating office buildings and mixed-use buildings and conversions that have a market and then a tax value.
And then another question that I had was, and I'll kind of put this all in like one question, is that I hear time and time again from like, I'm young-ish. I'm gonna say ish. I am like a weird scroller on TikTok. I never post, but I like scroll for like an hour every morning. But something that I always see on there from like young creators is like all there are uptown are restaurants. There's no retail. And if the retail is there, it is like a big box store that is copy and pasted from place to place to place. So are there like small business grants that y'all are offering? Where are those locations? And I'm not talking South End, because South End is like pretty much all retail at this point. But like, what about like in Uptown proper that is retail?
We share your hunger for more retail in Uptown. We feel like it is the missing page because this community has done it right. Our cultural institutions, our public art, great restaurants, the sports facilities, and now we've got owners that want to double the use in those facilities, which is great for hospitality and also creates that environment. When we've worked with retail consultants, they said that the retailers will be the hardest thing. They'll be the last ones to come because they really only want to establish a location where their customers are already buying. So it's not even chicken or the egg. I don't know what the analogy would be. We do have many great small businesses that operate as retailers, many of which are in food and beverage. We launched a small business innovation fund coming out of COVID, where we raised about $3 million privately, but then there were some grants from the city with ARPA funds that allowed us to get to just north of $5 million. And they were generally $30,000 grants to small businesses. It couldn't be for operations. It had to be for innovation. How are you pivoting to the new headwinds? And it was great. We were able to grant all that money. We had a great investment committee, so it was done third party with some really smart community builders and even some private equity folks that are used to that kind of process. We partnered with the Foundation for the Carolinas. We used their software, and 90% of the grants went to businesses owned by veteran, women, and people of color, and had a big impact. There's two things that continue though. The market at 7th Street, you might see it as North Carolina's first food hall, and it was. But if you look deeper, it's an incubator. And we have a feeder program called Hive, which is a hub for innovation, inclusivity. I'm going to blow the acronym. But we've had 2 cohorts that come through. We're trying to raise money for a 3rd cohort. And they're generally 20, 25 small business operators that do 9 weeks of classes, one night a week. And it's everything from social media to accounting to tax to law to, and we've got great partners that are a part of it. We work with some great partners that have tools to teach entrepreneurs, and that's intended to be a pipeline to teach small businesses how to become a part of the marketplace of Uptown. And we always choose 2 from a competitive process that gets 6 months of free rent at the market. And it's been great because each of those has then matured into an incubated business within the market.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Welcome.
Other questions? Commissioner Millen.
Thank you for the presentation. This is great. I'm going to piggyback off Rebecca's first question, the conversion of office space to housing. And at the very beginning of your presentation, you showed this beautiful building that's, I believe, getting ready to take place. And you said there's housing above. How much of that, if any, would be considered affordable housing for the people that actually work uptown so that they could want to enjoy uptown, but they wouldn't have to depend on public transportation to get to work? And that's my first part of the question. Second one is public safety, reality or perception of safety in uptown. I know you mentioned having private security for some of the business owners taking on and the extra tax for the municipality district. How much of that is our CMPD, and with CMPD being so low staffed, how are you covering that for your area?
Awesome. Great questions again, and thank you. So I begin by reminding you guys that we're a leadership organization. We're not an authority by any sense. We literally have no authority. So anytime we're a part of something, it's because we've been invited into it to contribute and help. And I think we get invited because we've got talented people that work there. The affordable housing piece, affordable housing inside of Uptown, I've found to be one of the greater challenges. When there's a group of us, the city, the county, the library system, Bank of America, and then a bunch of folks in the North Tryon area all worked on a project called 7th and Tryon. And it was a block and a half. The land was already basically municipally owned. And we have big aspirations for the amount of affordable housing that we would seek to put on that property. And what we found is the tools that we have today didn't position us to be able to do an adequate amount of affordable housing at a cost that made sense. And so much of the struggle was the amount of housing trust fund money per door that was going to have to be invested to make it possible, even with like no land value. It was really frustrating. We do have projects that are introducing good, affordable and workforce housing. The Housing Authority, which is now called Enlivian, has a project at 8th and Tryon, which is delivering how many units? Yeah, it's in the 400 area. I think the conversions could also offer an opportunity. And it depends on what we're trying to address. Are we trying to address affordable housing for residents that earn less than 30% of area median income, or something in between, or something above 80%? Because for any developer, you guys get this, they're going to borrow money, they're going to invest, they're going to create a product, and they have to have income that comes in to be able to service the debt, and they have investors as well. So it becomes a higher subsidy the more that you move into the sub 30% of AMI. And that's the challenge. I think we do have some projects within Uptown that do have a lower basis and will offer opportunities for probably workforce housing first. If we want more truly affordable housing, it's going to have to be a community decision where community land is acquired, and we find the right way with a partnership to do it. You asked about public safety. We have a public safety working group that was convened and met monthly last year. It's now moved to quarterly, but includes our chief of police, district attorney, Spencer Merriweather, our chief district judge, Wiggins. I mean, this is a great group of talented people. And what we did is we went out and interviewed 3 different affinity groups, 3 or maybe 4, residents, the hospitality community, major employers, and the unhoused. And we brought that feedback back to then challenge everybody who served on this committee to come back with, what will you do with this information? What are your initiatives that you're willing to commit to? And there was about 25 commitments that were made. And some of them were really big ideas. You know, no surprise, our DA is grossly understaffed. I mean, it's a failure point within our justice system. But there's some really exciting conversations going on right now at the General Assembly. The business community has stood up and said, we've got an all-star in Spencer. We've got a staff that is committed to the work, but is so under-resourced that, you know, they can't do the quality job that our community needs. So we're hopeful there. Our chief has done some analysis, chief of police, that compare on a per person basis the number of sworn officers in our community versus our counterparts and what the average is. And he and Marcus have had some really good conversations about, you know, how do we grow that force? The good news is our chief and our police are having larger classes of cadets. There's more and more people that are choosing public service that way. And they're hopeful about being able to net, you know, up to 100 per year for the next 4 to 5 years. We have had a reduction in violent crimes in Uptown. I think the statistic now is 17% year over year. What I would tell you, though, is we're not as safe as we need to be. And, you know, there's still death, violent crime that occurs. I think we're a safe place. I bring my family here, but I think our standard is higher than that. And you know, public safety, like homelessness, is not. It's not a destination. It's a commitment, and we've got great leadership, and we need to invest in it.
Anybody else? My turn. Although a number of folks have knocked off some of the questions that I have, particularly concerned about some of the recent sales and just seeing the difference between the tax value and where those things went. A little bit challenging. You guys mentioned the residential conversion that Ascent is doing, and that's a cool and interesting project. Several months ago, I give the commissioners homework at the end of each one of these meetings, and one of the homework plans I gave them was an article about vertical farming as being done in old office space. So I want to ask the question, this is the first of like about 5 down here. Are you all considering or trying to put forth any energy in harvesting some ideas for non-residential conversions of office space? Because, I'd gone over to the Innovation Barn and Julian, I can't remember his last name right now, but he has his trailer out there with a vertical farm in it.
Yeah.
And there's some buildings downtown that, the occupancy rate is the same as the vacancy rate for the rest of the city. And I'm just seeing cabbage growing everywhere. Are you all trying to stimulate that kind of thinking for uptown?
So we would love a consultative study that is a partnership between the city, the county, and the business community that allows us to evaluate all options. And I think when we create incentive tools, it should not be just to residential.
Yeah.
We should be considering hospitality. We should be considering civic uses, institutional uses,
Yeah, I mean,
maybe vertical farming.
vertical farming, there have been schools downtown. We won't mention the name of them, but that didn't work out so well. But it would seem that some of those buildings would be perfect for an expansion of CMS or other universities, colleges, in the area. So I just, people ask me these questions. I got it this weekend. What's going to happen uptown? I don't know. No one is asking me these things, but these are some of the options that I see. And I'm just wondering if you all were exploring them. Question number 2.
It is a unique point in time.
Mhm.
In our lifetime,
Yeah.
we're probably not going to see discounts for these kinds of office assets that we're seeing now, where
No.
they're trading at a quarter to a third of value.
Yeah.
But it takes somebody with real staying power to be
Yeah.
able to make these moves. And we're seeing some of those trades, though.
Yeah. I mean, there was a building that sold in New York for like $8 million or something. And we were sitting around at lunch and it was like, wait a minute, that's getting close to where we could have bought the damn thing. And it's like, there may be a deal uptown screaming my name, not sure. Clayton Seeley isn't here, so I'm going to pretend I'm Clayton. So you guys, I'm bigger and
We
do
know
I have
Clay-
facial
we know
hair?
Clayton very well.
I have facial hair, so the evil Spock thing is in line. Closing streets. If Clayton were here, he would say, you need to permanently close Camden because it's a pedestrian something or other, plaza, blah, blah, blah. Are there notions for trying to come up with street closings? Because you talked about activities and inviting people into the area. Street closings, gospel according to Douglas, seem to be really simple things to get people to come to an area that they normally wouldn't come to, because as a pedestrian experience, it's much more tolerable than dodging cars. So are you considering that in any shape, form, or fashion? I'm now not Clayton anymore. So
Yeah, so our counsel to you would be, as you contemplate street closures, that there's a continuum from highway to boulevard to neighborhood street to carriage street to closed street. And Cheryl has been my mentor in urban planning. She's the only one of the two of us with a master's degree in that. And what she always says to me is close streets when you have to for safety, because there's so many people there that the public right of way can't address it. Because when you close a street, it is punitive to every business on that street. It is punitive to their retail on that street. And the evidence of this is irrefutable. So the places that close streets really well are Times Square, the Ramblas, places that have so much footfall because they have so many guests. We're becoming a better destination. I would tell you that we're not that destination yet that has, like the footfall we had this weekend in Uptown. It was a great time to close streets because we had Taste of Charlotte. So we do it episodically. And you get tastes of it with the events we throw on Camden, where we close the street and everybody pours in and loves it. And I know this isn't probably a popular recommendation or thought, but I've had the fortune of working with a lot of my counterparts throughout the world. This was a popular thing to do in the 70s. And if you look back at where streets were closed, they've almost all been reopened.
I'll second that. Greenville, South Carolina did that. In the 80s, I believe they closed Main Street and it's now reopened. This comes back to, and again, I'm channeling Clayton. Since 2009, I guess every morning I get up and ride my bike through what wasn't South End, but became South End. And I've done this for 15 years or so. I rode through on the rail trail, I guess 2 weeks ago, and it was impossibly difficult. And so at what level does that become an indicator? And I think it's past that place. But, that's the gospel according to Douglas. And you got, someone else is going to make this decision. But, going from a time when that was an asphalt path along the old rail line that wasn't a light rail line at that particular point in time to now, I would be on Clayton's side if he were to get to decide this.
Okay.
Next question, which is one that's probably really simple. Why is there more than one MSD in Uptown?
Great question. So MSD 1 is everything inside 277 and actually all the way over to King Street, the other side of Memorial Stadium.
Mm-hmm.
That was the original, probably, I think it was the first in North Carolina of a municipal service district. In other places, they're called business improvement districts.
Mm-hmm.
And what they found in the 80s and 90s is that they wanted more resources, but they wanted to concentrate the further investment on commercial properties. So they created 2 overlay districts, a secondary overlay district, MSD 2, which is focused on commercial properties mostly in the 1st Ward, 2nd Ward, and 3rd Ward. And then MSD 3 was created to really catch Tryon, College, and Church. And that was the idea, was to give additional resources for this work, but really to try to not put further burden on single-family homes.
Yeah. I will note that, with the MSD that they did at South Park, there was political scissoring to avoid getting residential in that part, which leads me to another question. Michael is not here. Michael Capriolo is not here, but he has spent a lot of his life in Los Angeles. And when I hear about people talk about Los Angeles, they talk about it being a multi-nodal city, that there are nodes where there's significant development, and each one is kind of its own little town inside of a town. And Gospel According to Douglas, again, is I think that that's great because that's competition between those 2 areas, and it makes both areas better. How do you all work with the other MSDs in town? And is there the notion of building a polymodal Charlotte? I mean, there a few years ago, Ballantyne was going to, schism and go do its own thing, which I thought would have been a great idea. People don't listen to me all the time, but that's another story too. How do you guys work with the other MSDs, and how do you work with places that aren't uptown that could be of benefit to Charlotte if it was a kind of a competitor or a cohort with uptown?
So great cities are a collection of great neighborhoods. We think of Uptown as just the intersection of all neighborhoods, but we work very closely with South Park and with University City. This model of creating MSDs or business improvement districts, there's now 10,000 of them throughout the world. It is a best practice for a community of people to have a specific vision and to collect specific dollars to help lead it and organize it in a certain way. And But even those neighborhoods that don't have MSDs, think, Noda and Plaza
Plaza
Midwood,
Midwood.
Dilworth. These are great neighborhoods. And when we worked on the 2040 vision plan, one of the big changes in that plan was that we have become a constellation of incredible neighborhood centers all around uptown and just expanding our sense of urbanity. And we think that's going to be some of the most exciting work of the next 2 decades.
Last question. Is there a target for population density uptown? I had a friend that lived over on Fifth Street in the late 80s, early 90s, and there were there were 5 people that lived uptown or something like that. I may be off with a couple of zeros, but that. And I know that Terry talked about moving here in 1990. I moved here in 1985 and walked from the old Observer building to the burned out church on a Saturday night and saw about 3 homeless people, and that was uptown in all of its exciting glory. Now, yeah, you can walk around and there are a few more people, but those people are often visiting as opposed to living there. And I don't believe uptown survives the monoculture that it is until you have people living there. And does anybody ever say, if we had 20,000 people living uptown, we'd be cooking with gas, so to speak.
So we probably have 20,000 now.
Yeah,
23
I just pull numbers out of a body
Yeah,
part, so I don't know.
23,000. South End now is, probably 16. It's been growing at such a great,
Mhm.
hyperbolic kind of pace.
Yeah.
It's more about the amount of growth that we have per cycle and per year. And, right now it feels like we're delivering, probably a couple thousand apartments each year into each that allows us to keep up with demand. Part of the secret sauce for the vibrancy of this community is in-migration. And that means we have to keep growing housing and growing jobs. And it allows us to be an incredibly vibrant place. We love growing the number of people that live within Center City. We think it is environmentally wise because there's a lot more Park Once days. There's a lot more Park Zero days. You pair that with the aspirations our community has around mobility and, putting them at the hub of that system. We think it's good for our community. Plus, it's on top of infrastructure that we already paid for with our taxes.
Cool beans. All right.
Thanks for having us.
I'm done with my questions, but I always save myself generally to last. I don't know if anybody else has any. Did I inspire anyone to have a question? Oh, they're too shy today for that. Everyone, I'd like to give Michael and Cheryl and Marguerite a round of applause. Thank you very much for coming to visit us. Hang out. We have a few more minutes of meeting here, and hopefully everybody, if you have any further questions, you can talk to them after this one is over. But we're almost to the end of our party here. One of the things we do at this point in time is we go around, we talk to everybody, and we say, who has done what over the last month? And so we will begin with Commissioner Millen, and if you'll just give us a few minutes of what you've done.
I attended the last MTC meeting, and then a couple of weeks ago, I went to Coventry Woods Neighborhood Community Meeting. They were having some heavy, interesting conversation around the Haven Ridge affordable housing rezoning. So we may see the answers to that either tonight or the next council meeting. So it's been a slow month for me.
All right. Commissioner Gaston.
Hello. So I've been doing a lot of community engagement, talking with the residents. I've had some residents who've reached out and wanted to talk about what's happening in the communities and the amount of development that's going on and how it is negatively impacting their communities and neighborhoods. So that was a fun discussion to have. Definitely very fun. Yeah, definitely very fun. I did talk to a church in the North End area that's interested in potentially partner with a developer about affordable housing, so that was good. And in the North End, unfortunately, we've had some crime that's been increasing. So I've been talking to CMPD and some meetings with Enlivian and about what we can do to kind of help change that trajectory. And then I also attended Cops and Coffee. That's what it's called.
Coffee with the cop?
Yeah, the Starbucks once a month.
Oh, awesome.
Together, and Starbucks gives free coffee. Whoop, whoop, and
Yeah.
meets with the officers. So that's very good.
Free is always a good thing.
Free is always good. Yes.
Commissioner Neely.
So the transportation updates, I've been participating in that and learning a lot. I hadn't seen you this week. I went to I think I saw Will this week at the one I went to. I also did a class that that our Realtor Association did on urban planning with someone from St. Louis, Missouri, talking about new design, being committed to your city, which was extremely educational. I should have told more people about it, but I did find out to the last minute, but that's me.
Commissioner Weldon.
Yes, so I met with some neighbors on the west side. They wanted to talk about community area plans. It was a great conversation. And then I was just appointed to the American Planning Association Awards Committee. So I'm fancy now.
Yeah. Do they know about your spreadsheets? That's the question.
No, but I should tell them.
Yeah. Commissioner Shaw.
Yeah, I actually missed this meeting last month because I was at the ULI National meeting. So sat on my development council and got to hear about the challenges of construction for multifamily and the challenges for lending for everybody, and lots of good but not super uplifting conversations, but good information. I had my South End Board Committee meeting with Michael and Cheryl, who just left us 2 weeks ago, which was great. And then otherwise just zoning stuff.
All right. Commissioner Russell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Been participating and trying to deep dive into the transit mobility plan because that seems to be something that has been hot and heavy here recently. And then I will make a slight announcement here. I'll be having a town hall on community area plans tomorrow night at 6:30 at the Mallard Creek Rec Center. So if you want to come on out, please do. We'll have a nice conversation with a short presentation about community area plans and how they affect the city.
What is this community area plans you're talking about? Commissioner McDonald.
I have been on an early summer break, I'm afraid. I don't have much to report for the last month. So.
Okay, that's perfectly fine. Commissioner Lansdale.
Not a lot to report on planning commission work, other than we met with staff on the community area plans, and I was able to go through my comments personally. On a more professional level, we did have a conversation with 4 representatives from the National Highway Transportation Safety Association this last month, talking about the impacts of land use decisions on our roads and our safety on our roads. And on May 6th, we developed a team of 23 people from across the state and met with 90 of our legislators in Raleigh.
Thanks, sir. As usual, I'll go last. After this meeting last month, we all on the planning committee got the exciting adventure of going and sitting in with council on May 12th to have the public hearing for the community area plans.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah,
I did more than what I said.
It's vaguely a scar because, well, I'm not going to say that meeting went exactly as planned, but you know, that's what we did. We sat there, we heard, I think there were 18 people that had public comments that night. So that was exciting in an unusual way. There was a UDO update that Kevin gave on, I think we gave a couple of those. That was last month. The third annual East Side Summit hung out there. Commissioner Millen and Commissioner Winokur were table captains. So that was fun. I just kind of walked in and just, I don't know what I did there, but I did something. Let's see. I'm looking at the other things I did. I also had, last week I had a couple of meetings with folks from the West Inner to talk to them about community area plans in a very dedicated and focused way. So that was entertaining and got those comments back to folks about community area plans. We'll note that the planning committee a week from tomorrow will be, I guess, reviewing the community area plans and coming to a vote for a recommendation on what to do with those. That's the plan at this moment. And Kathy, is there a council date for that? Yeah. Okay, so that's when a council would be adopting those or voting to adopt those plans. So the community area plans, as Kathy would say if she were up here, they're foundational to getting to the next step. And I have had people ask me a lot about what the next step is. And so we've got to get these things in a place. And I said to Terry beforehand, I'm doing a lot of listening right now and just reporting back in terms of what I hear the public saying. And no one, well, no. The folks that I've had to deal with on the West Side and South Inner as well have had an opportunity to talk to me, and I'm hopeful that they are all taking advantage of that, et cetera. So we're getting there with that. And that's about it, except I went to a local TV station. They aimed cameras at me for like 20 minutes and I talked. That was interesting. I hope I didn't say anything was stupid, but we'll figure that out when it gets out there. So it was out there last week, but I'm not telling anybody. Yeah. Do we got?
I did want to add that the future agenda topics on your agenda
Yeah.
date for planning committee is incorrect.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
17th. Did you put that out?
Oh,
And that
the date is not correct either.
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, the date is the
is correct.
17th.
Yes.
And we will have mandatory referrals, but we will also have community area planning. So if anybody wants to come to that just because you don't have anything to do on a Tuesday night, you feel free to do that. Yes, ma'am.
Can I ask a date related question while we're on the topic? So
I thought you were married. You still dating?
No, I'm way too tired to date.
Okay. You have children now.
Husband. This is a separate topic for a separate.
Okay, I digress.
For July, there is no zoning committee working session and also no council, or just no zoning committee working session?
That's a good question. I
That
was
is
going to
a-
ask you about that.
That is a good question. I know for sure that zoning committee is canceled. I will have to verify council.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, yeah. So that gets me back to another point. I'm going to talk to all y'all in the next month about what committees you want or don't want to be on. So, I'll give you a call and we'll figure that out because we last year, didn't we do this in like, we switched committees in like August when there was not a meeting of blah, blah, blah. So I was under the assumption that there was going to be a work session next month and there'd be a no zoning committee meeting for council in July. Okay, yeah. Please stay tuned. I think that's what people would say. We'll get it all straightened out, but I'll give everybody some calls and we'll talk and then we'll figure out, the juggling act that needs to occur there. I'm going out. Will is having his community meeting tomorrow. I'm going out to Steelberry Acres for those of you who were at the public hearing. I'm going out to hang with them tomorrow night. Yeah. And also I'm going over to I'm at the West Side Historic West End Partners Saturday, talking to them at 8:30 in the morning. They're going to give me food. So there's that. Yeah. Yeah. It's, there's food. You can walk down it's down the street from your house.
No.
Okay. I would say you could take the gold line from there, but, and then I think I'm going to hang out with the folks at South Park in 2 weeks as well. So that. All right. Enough said about that. Thanks everybody for going out and being in public. We're going to do our homework topics. And this month there's 3 homework thingies instead of just 2 because it's a bonus of exciting things. Now I will start this by saying, have you all heard the phrase, I'd rather have questions? No, I'd rather have answers. No, let's see. I'd rather have questions that couldn't be answered as opposed to answers that couldn't be questioned. You're familiar with that? All right. You never heard that before? It makes sense though, right? If you got a question, if you got an answer out there and nobody allows you to question it, there's a problem, per chance. Can I get to the next slide? All right. So this, you guys recognize this. I'm sure you've seen it. There are many people in Charlotte who will tell you exactly what this is, and they will not dispute it until the end of time. It's the old redlining map, right? Next slide. I give you guys an opportunity to rethink redlining.
My goodness.
Okay. Well, it's up to you to decide. But if what you've got in your mind can't be questioned, then there's something interesting in that. Okay? Because it's not going to get any better for the rest of the homework. Okay? All right. Next slide, Candace. Thank you. How many of you believe in shade? I'm not talking about the DC villain. Okay. All right. You know what I found? Next slide. The National Shade Atlas. All right. And this is a really cool thing, particularly for those of you on the zoning committee. You know, there's all this environmental justice thing that's out there, and people don't have shade, and life goes directly to hell if you don't have trees, right? This is very good because it is down to NPA, your neighborhood, whatever that thingamabob is, whatever NPA stand for. And it'll say, oh, you have 50% shade tree cover in your neighborhood, or you have 0%. It's usually in red when it's that, but I think it's a green to red thing. So you can basically see that if a development is occurring in a certain place and somebody is complaining about, some trees are going to get cut down and life's going to go directly to hell, you can double check on the shade apps. All right. One more fun thing. Do you guys do you remember the 1939 World's Fair in New York? It was such a trick question. Everybody just was supposed to say, no, I wasn't born. For the most part. All right. But there was an exhibit called the Futurama World of the Future, sponsored by GM. You all have heard the expression before, what's good for GM is good for America, right? Right? We built America because the future is supposed to have tall buildings. They're gleaming and bright. Cars are supposed to move effortlessly along highways all over the place. The future was supposed to be magic. Your home was supposed to automatically clean itself. Modernism in and of itself was something that took hold in the mid part of the 20th century. However, modernism ended. And it ended with the counterculture of the 70s because, hell, when you talk to people about the 70s, it's full of pollution. New York was a hole, left out a word there. And it was a place where all of a sudden the gleaming, shining future stopped happening. And how did we get from this place where smart people came up with ideas for building great things, and it was replaced by a process where you have everybody that gets in it and participates, and they slow it down because you can't build that next to me, right? All right, everybody's arguing about their rights. This article, the next article, thank you, Candace. You all have heard the Pete Thiel quote, you know. We asked for flying, we thought we were going to get flying cars, and all we got was 140 characters, right? This is a very long article. I don't think most of you will read it. However, if you read it, I think that there's a lot to be gained in terms of insight about how the world changed, because we just heard this presentation about Uptown Charlotte, very much dictated by modernity. Shining glass buildings that the windows don't open. What used to be streets that you could park on are now streets that you can drive on uninterrupted at 60 miles an hour if you'd like. So how did we get there? Something to think about. And these are more, I'm waxing philosophical when I'm coming up with homework this time, so deal with it. All right, our next meetings, here's the schedule of things. We'll double check and make sure that we got the right dates for all of the zoning work sessions, et cetera, et cetera. August is a break. There's no planning commission work session in August. And nor is there generally a planning committee work session in August. Sometimes the zoning thing, depending on when council takes their break, there's that. But we'll get that all squared away in the next week. And again, I'll be on the phone chatting with everybody just to get some feedback about where you want to go. All right. If there's nothing else, do I hear a motion that we get adjourned?
Motion to adjourn, Wilden.
Thank you.
All second.
All right, that's done. Everybody get out. Thanks, everybody. I will see you all soon.
Bye.
So.
Was that this month's homework?
Last month's homework.